Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete for Anxiety here, the mental health podcast, breaking the stigma that mental health is talked about in. Welcome in today's episode. Before we get started today, we need to cover a few things really quick. Let's talk about the Pete for Anxiety Patreon first off. It's only $1, guys. $1. What does $1 get you? $1 gets you into the exclusive episodes I am recording currently. I'm actually focusing on certain different diagnoses of things to show you guys what it actually looks like as it manifests in a person. So why not for $1, judges? Yeah, they said $1. I just checked with them too. See, they said it was okay. It was $1 anyways. Let's also talk about the Oracle Talk Radio Networks app. In case you can't be here live listening to me, watching this video, supporting the show, you can listen to it on the radio app. Why not? It connects us live to our 365 radio. Just go to your app stores and download the Oracle Talk Radio Network. You'll see the big old Oracle Talk Radio Network app logo right on there. Download it and it'll connect you to me, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, to Pete for Anxiety when I'm live doing my thing right here, informing the world and raising mental health awareness. So where are you going to be? 10 a.m., of course. Come on, we just talked about this. Pay attention for once. Damn, do y'all know how to listen? And as always, guys, like, follow, and share the YouTube channel. If you guys like what you're seeing, leave some comments, man. We want to know. I want to know if you like what we're on. You want to be on the show? Let me know. Hit me up at PeteVersusAnxietyPod@gmail.com. And as always, guys, enjoy the show. And by the way, did I mention to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well? Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure because some of y'all are hard of hearing in the back, may have to yell it loud or get a megaphone or something. But, anyways, let's get today's show started. Y'all have a great one. Enjoy. Guys, it's Monday. It's 10 a.m. You know what time it is? It's time for an exciting episode of Pete versus Anxiety, the mental health podcast, breaking the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. My guest today is a life coach, hypnotherapist, counselor, tarot card reader, and a psychic. Please welcome Kirsty Heath. How you doing?
Hi everybody.
How's it going this morning? I know you're coming to visit from the UK, correct?
Yep, I am. So it's kind of the end of my hectic day. Well, the end of most of my hectic day here. So I know you guys are just getting started in the morning over there. But yeah, I've finished work for today.
Well, that's awesome, though. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I am a counsellor. I qualified initially many years ago as a hypnotherapist, and I originally was just going to build a business around that, but I've always had the other gifts, the psychic ability, the mediumship. I've always had those, and I wanted to incorporate those. And it took me a long while to find a model that incorporates those two skills together, because they're a bit of a bizarre thing to have together. So whilst my children were growing up, I was a single parent. And whilst my children were growing up, I couldn't do much apart from work unsociable hours. So in the other times, I used that time to study. And I'd started building more and more skills, and with having a bigger picture, having an end goal of putting together a business that incorporated all these skills. So I just kind of got my head down, worked when I could, when the children were either being looked after or the older ones were old enough to babysit the younger ones. I'd work. I remember, kind of driving home at all hours of night because I'd been just working to try and put food on the table and also support my studying. So I studied, and then I had this plan to put together this business, but generally, as life does, it got in the way and things happened, and we so many unexpected things happen. But all this time going on in the background, I was still doing all this studying. And then we came to I had quite almost an epiphanical moment, which I'll touch on a bit later in the podcast. But I had quite a life-changing experience. And it kind of made me realize is almost like, there is actually a plan for you. It kind of awakened me and gave me the kick up the backside that I needed, the reality check that I needed to kind of put this business together. I knew from a very young age that I was here to help people in some capacity or another. I've been a nurse, I've been a counsellor, and now I'm completely devoting my life to helping other people. But I never knew how or kind of how to put it together. But this life-changing event just made me realise that how short life is, and how tomorrow's never promised. And I thought, I have to help while I'm here on earth. I have to help as many people as possible. And that was the kind of the catalyst that put together the business, and that's how Kirsty Heath Bespoke Therapy was born.
Yeah, that's awesome though. And like I was reading through your all the different things, and I'm like psychic. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be interesting because I'm always fascinated by that kind of stuff too. Because a lot of people, they all have their own thoughts about how it actually works. Oh, a lot of these people are fake, and I was like, I don't know, man. There's something out there you're talking to. Something's always trying to talk to you. You just got to know how to recognize it.
Yeah, and then I find that there are three categories of people. There's people that absolutely don't believe. There's people that are a little bit curious and want want more proof. And then there's your category that are fanatical about it, really into it, really empowered by it. I find that we all fall into one of those three categories.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, because you get those naysayers and everything else. Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested though. Like I said, that stuff interests me because, like, spiritual energies and things like that. And my wife is big into the whole thing with all that too. And she's kind of teaching me stuff as I go. So it's been interesting because you can feel the energy of people sometimes, and everybody's, it's like, sometimes it's like a sixth sense, and people are like, well, how do you know? It's like, they give up this vibe is what I call it. They give up this vibe, man. Like some people you talk to, just like you can tell when they just need somebody to listen to them. And a lot of times you could read their emotions or read the look on their face and just kind of see that they're having issues and things like that. And
we've all got what I call the internal human satellite navigation system, and that's the soul in the stomach, that guides us. And what happens is that our guardian angels and our spirit guides will try and communicate with us, and if we're totally ignoring that information or they're not getting through to us, they just stop. They stop trying. But your intuition that comes in the gut is because we're all connected to the higher self. We are all one consciousness. We are all we're all connected. And the higher self is where your life plan is, where your Akashic records are stored from each lifetime. The subconscious, the higher self, whatever you want to name it, whatever you believe in, because we all believe in different things. So the higher self is, that's where the information, that is the channel, if you like, where the information comes from, and we generally feel it in the stomach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this kind of sense of knowing. And a lot of the time people, especially people that don't believe, will just kind of ignore that information that's being passed to us, and eventually our guardian angels and our spirit guides just become redundant and just follow us around throughout our life. But it's very easy to retune and pick up and kind of rechannel to our guardian angels and our spirit guides, who, where the information comes from. But yeah, they kind of, the sixth sense, everybody has got a sixth sense. It's just that I guess it's a bit like, if you think back to school days, maths and English, some of us were better at grasping the concepts of maths and English, and psychic abilities and intuition is the same as that.
Yeah, no, I get that completely because there's some people that just don't know what they're feeling, and some that just don't want to know. Then a lot of them will be like they're in denial, constant state of denial. Oh no, that's not what that is. It's like, dude, I think it's more than you realize, And I mean, that's the great thing about the the internet now is that you have all these different people coming together, and just the naysayers say their naysays, and the ones that are really fanatical, like you were saying, are deep into it. And a lot of those people are like, well, prove me wrong type people, it's like, I want to see some factual proof. I'm like, it's all there. You just got to look.
Yeah, it is. And there's far too much evidence to say that it's rubbish. There's so many case studies.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much physical evidence. I knew from a young age that I had something extra, something that wasn't, I didn't know whether nobody else had it, but I knew it was just different.
Yeah.
But I grew up in quite a largely male-dominated environment. And my brothers, I was the only girl in a family, quite a large family of boys, and my brothers would jump at any chance they could to rib me anyway, or so there was no way in this world I was going to come out and say that I saw things and heard things that other people couldn't say, because oh my god, they would have had a field day.
Right.
So I kept this from my family for a long time. And when I finally kind of came out and started working and doing these, these readings and working and helping people and finding people and finding bodies and things like that for people, my family were almost like, Yeah, so when did you become sight? And when I kind of come out of the closet, they were like, well, where did that come from? And I had to say to them, it's been there all these years. I'm just too scared to tell anybody.
Exactly, because people start the way they react is just weird. They're like, "Wait, you're talking to dead people?" Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
talk to you. You just got to know how to listen. That's all.
Well, there's a very fine line between having been on the wrong side of my nerves too many times.
Yeah,
Uh, there is a very fine line between losing your sanity and talking to people that aren't there.
right.
So you've got to be of sound mind, and I wasn't for a long time. And I think that's what kind of that's why I was so delayed into, that's why I was sort of up until, it wasn't till my late 20s that I started to kind of lose my fear of it.
Yeah,
And kind of gave them the green light to go ahead and work with them.
yeah, definitely. And you got to be very careful because you don't know what you're talking to, and and you know what the funny part though is the '90s they used to have the Ouija board and everybody was playing with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't think you understand what you're doing with that thing. You better be careful because every time it was always, it's like a little cool little. It's such a cool little trick thing. Oh, I'm not moving it. The commercials are like, I'm not moving it. I'm not moving it either. And it's like, yeah, but what's moving it though? If you're not moving it, what's moving it?
Yeah.
It's the question. And as we see with all the different things like Annabelle and all these other movies, these are all real stories. People think are just, oh, this is so cool. Hollywood didn't know these are real stories. Go look and see. They real Annabelle Della was a Raggedy Ann doll. Like that thing moves. Like it's not automatic. It's moving on its own. Something is moving it. So explain to me what that is. You know what I'm saying? It's like for those naysayers are like, well, that ain't true. Well, then explain to me how that doll's moving. Well, animatronic. How that thing is literally in a case somewhere. You like it's crazy. You watch. There's a couple live videos where people are showing them moving the doll to another case of sorts. Because unfortunately the Warners are passed. I think the children still run the museum. I think at this point, if it's even still out there, but they used to be able to go in there, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know about letting people in that room with all that stuff in there because you don't know what's going to attach to them and things like that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I studied years ago was past life regression, and it's probably one of the biggest things that I do now, because past life regression, previous lifetimes can be linked to phobias, anxiety, stresses, any kind of behavior that we don't really have a catalyst for in this lifetime is generally connected to a previous lifetime. And when I was studying past life regression, people, a lot of people around me were like, oh, it's rubbish. We don't have previous lifetimes. We're just here, we live and we die and that's it. And one of my oldest cases, I'll never forget, was a big burly police officer. I think he was about 6'4", big strapping man. And he'd had to take a lot of coaxing to come to me. And he was one of my first clients. And his wife had told me that every time he saw a needle, he fainted, which wasn't good as a police officer, because as you can imagine, you get into situations where needles and sharps are around, quite regularly. So like this, he would just literally keel over, and there was no kind of apparent reason for it in this lifetime, and his wife was convinced that it was from a previous lifetime. So anyway, after much coaxing and much talking and building a rapport with this guy, to cut the long story short, it turned out that this police officer that fainted every time he saw a needle, when I took him back to a previous lifetime, it was about 3 lifetimes previous, and he'd actually been put to death by lethal injection for a crime that he hadn't committed.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, and he had in his conscious mind, he had no memory of that. But obviously, the minute he saw a needle, it triggered him, and he just bang straight out.
Would it be his subconscious that would be reacting to that needle then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. His subconscious would have triggered his conscious mind. No apparent reason, just saw the needle and fainted.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what transpired when we regressed him. And I think it took a couple of times. The first time wasn't very successful. I think it was the second time it took a while for him to relax and trust me. And it was on the second session that we managed to establish that he kind of went through the whole situation again with me, and even the death. He taught me through what happened.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I like that's so fascinating. Now now I'm really fascinated because I'm like, wow, really? That's so cool. Because I know with hypnotherapy, what is it called? Quantum healing, I think is what it's called. The one woman I interviewed, had told me about. I did a Patreon episode with her, and she was talking about that, something similar to that. Like they dig deep into your mind, but she said you had to meditate like 2 weeks prior to doing the session because it helps them break through that first mental wall that protects everything. So they go deep diving in and start asking you questions. Is that kind of similar to what you used on him to do the same process?
Yeah, it is. Past life regression is hypnosis is the base of it. You have to
Yeah.
hypnotize somebody, but what we do is it's a certain technique where we walk them through this lifetime
Oh, okay. Okay.
and through previous lifetimes, but they actually choose the lifetime themselves that they want to go back to. Their higher conscious chooses. We don't pick. We just give the subconscious mind commands.
Oh, okay.
And it follows those commands, and then it arrives at a door basically with the number, the year of the life that they want.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
Oh,
how it works.
that's so cool though. That I'm so fascinated by it now because it's like I just now I wonder if I had a past regret intention. Now I'm curious about myself now. Like
We've
that'd be so cool.
we've all got, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, but over here it's a common used phrase. When you meet somebody and they seem very aware and very grounded, you say they're an old soul.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that term before.
And that's what that's me, because the soul is it lives on to infinity. It's ever evolving, and the human body is just a vessel for the soul.
Yeah,
It carries like a carcass for the soul. So the soul, its job normally is to reincarnate every 15 to 25 years after death, and before we reincarnate we decide who with, what lessons the soul needs to learn, how much time it needs to be on earth. We pick our parents. Some people find that ludicrous, the fact that they've been stuck with these parents that are narcissistic or whatever their story is. We pick our parents, what lessons they need to teach us. That's all. They say that life is mapped out for us, and it very much is, but by us.
yeah. That's now I'm so fascinated because I'm like now I want to know about my past life now and things like that. And I'm like that's so curious because I did have heard that term though, you're an old soul, and I'm just like, man, dude, now I'm kind of curious about myself because like I don't know if I have anything weird like that though, but that's just so cool to know though. Like it makes sense now though if you think about it, because I've done a little studies into some of this stuff and looking into it. And after I talked to her, she was like, "Hey, I'll do a session with you. You just have to meditate 2 weeks prior to it." And I'm like, okay, so I've got to get around to setting that up because I'm curious. Like, and she said the only thing she did tell me though is that if it's a negative experience, don't say it was negative. I'm like, but my thought process to that is like, how's it negative? I asked to do this.
Yeah,
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You can't come out of it being negative. It's something I chose to do on my own and things like that. Because now I'm really curious now. Because now I really want to know like some more stuff. Because that'd be interesting to know what my past life was then. Because
yeah,
I watch all that stuff. Like I look at all the spiritual stuff, and I get those feelings sometimes. Like you could just like I said, I call it a vibe though, but you get this feeling like you could read people and kind of tell a lot of times, and I have a real good tendency to read when people are really something struggling with something. Like, hey, what's up? And you can tell just like what you're looking for. Certain things in their facial expressions give it away too, and things like that.
yeah. It's energy that we all carry energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read. It's like being able to read a room. Sometimes you can stand in a room and just read the room. And it's the same with a person. You can tell immediately. I sometimes I am so repelled by people, not because I want to be, but it's just like, whoa,
Yeah. Yeah.
this this is not a good person for you to be around. And then I'll just either make my excuses and leave, or
Yeah.
I'll
Exactly.
avoid that area, whatever. But I always know when, unfortunately, when something horrible is happening. I might not know what it is, but I get this foreboding feeling, of something not very nice happening. And then I hear on the news or I hear locally that something's happened, but thankfully they don't give me all the details, because it's not my job to save the world. It's my job to help other people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here for. As I said previously, I'm new from a young age, that I just wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I didn't know how or what that looked like. I didn't know. Initially, I thought it was nursing, so I went into nursing, and I did that for a long time. And then I went through a tough period in my life, and I started not coping with the nursing very well, and once you feel like that, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I kind of just wandered. I went through a really tough experience. Part of it my own fault because I made some bad choices, and I just kind of wandered like a lost soul for a long time. And then I started to really kind of focus on the spiritual work. And a massive part of spiritual work is your own healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
You will never find a light worker that hasn't been through a whole heap of crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we tend to, that's what we do. We go through this crap and we come out the other side. And I believe that light workers are chosen. They're a group of people that are sent to earth to enlighten others. And I believe I am one of those. I don't believe I'm God. I don't believe I'm the next best thing since sliced bread, but I believe that I was sent here to help people.
I love that. The sliced bread one got me. I was like, that's awesome. Or was there people say like all that in a bag of potato chips and that stuff like that. So that made me laugh a bit because I've used that one before too, so, but that's so cool though. I mean, because now it makes sense that why you feel these things. And, I know you said though, before we even started recording that you said you use a lot of the techniques together in combination. So what kind of people would come to visit you though? I know the officer came to you looking for the reason why the needles cause phobia. Have you any other really interesting cases over the time that you've been doing this?
Anybody comes to visit me, I've done I've a few people, which is quite a sad part of my job. A few people have asked me to find missing people.
Yeah.
And I've done that a few times. I was able to locate a body that was in it wasn't New Zealand, it wasn't was it Canada?
Canada, damn.
Yeah, I think it was Canada. And I had to locate this body, but obviously I had no idea of. I was just here, sat in my house, so all I could do was describe the area of what I would see around to this person, and this person was a friend of the family, and they kind of knew. And I said to my friend, look, this person's already passed. She said, yeah, the family have kind of accepted that this person's passed. But they wanted to retrieve the body, obviously, for closure and to be able to give the person the send off that they deserved. And I was able to describe pretty vividly where this body was and its surroundings, enough, so much so that they knew as soon as she passed on that information to the family, they were like, yeah, we know exactly where that is. And they went, and sadly his body was there.
Well, I mean, you gave them closure though, at least. I mean, yes, it's sad they passed, but I mean, for them to be able to find the body and lay it to rest, it's just amazing. Even though you're over in the UK and you found them in Canada, that to me is just like, that's crazy. Because to me, in my mind, I'm thinking, damn, Canada. I'm like, whoa, okay. For you to have the ability to be able to see what they were seeing, it's tremendous. Honestly, it's really fascinating to me too, because it's like, that's so cool though, because like you're not even in the same place this person is, and for you to describe where to find it and they find it, that speaks volumes about how, it's real. Like what you do is real. Like, I don't know how people can doubt that. If you can pick it out exactly, a complete person you've never met before, you can tell exactly where they're at almost to give an idea, like surrounding wise of what they're looking at. That's amazing. That's really cool. Honestly, that's really fascinating to hear, and for people that are just kind of doubting it, it's like, that's evidence enough right there for you to know that she's got something going there.
Yeah, and it is a sad part of the job, but it's also a really rewarding part of what I do as well. Connecting people, because when I do a reading, I want to give somebody something personal. I don't want to give general information that anybody could either guess or find out on the internet or whatever. I want to give them something personal so that they know that person is there, that I am talking to their loved one. I've been for lots of readings myself, because as a reader, we don't read for ourselves very well, because we influence, it's like tunnel vision.
Yeah,
it's always good to have somebody that you can go to as a reader and get your own reading. And I've come out of so many readings and just thought I should have just stood outside and put my money down the drain, because and I had, for a long time, I had a real moral battle going on in my head, because I was working for free. But it got to the stage where my services were that much in demand that I could no longer afford to do it for free, because it was sucking the life out of me. It was taking up all my time. And I in the end, I had to make a decision. I'm either going to have to do this as a job, or I'm going to have to give up completely. So I transitioned from what I was doing. I think it was hairdressing at the time or something like that, qualified as a hairdresser. And I kind of thought, I'm going to have to just take the leap. And I kind of said to Spirit, look, if this is what you want me to do, then you need to guide me across the water. And it's what I did. And for so many years, I think it took me almost 20 years to raise my prices, because of this real moral battle I had going on in my head.
Well, yeah, obviously be compensated for your time. I mean, what you're doing is incredible.
Yeah, and for 20 years, and last year I actually put my prices up for the first time in 20 years. Because I just thought, people were saying to me, you've got to be realistic about this. You need to earn a living. You've got to. This is your time. You either have to go and get a full-time job or do this and charge the right amount.
Yeah.
But I don't do, the one thing that I don't do is stand-up work. So I don't do stage work. And the reason being, I've got a real issue with people coming and paying to get in and not getting a message.
Yeah.
Now, if you're paying to see somebody, or you're paying for a service, you want that service. And I've come away from those places. I've been myself and felt really disappointed and a little bit cheated that I've paid. And you understand you might not get a message. There's only a handful of people going to get a message. But I a real issue with people paying to see me and not getting a message. So that's why I don't do kind of stand-up work. It's never been my thing. I have done it in the past. I've done it on a voluntary basis, but it does suck the life out of you, and it's not something that I really wanted to get into. So even if I do a group booking now, I see everyone individually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a long road to with kind of many winding turns. I've made some real bad choices and got into some real deep troubled waters. I left home at 16. I thought I knew everything the world had to offer, but looking back now, I actually knew nothing. But I had a really bad relationship with my mum. Her and my dad split up when I was 2, and he worked in the Gulf. He was a civil engineer. He designed oil rigs. So I didn't see much of him. And mum remarried very, very quickly. I went through some things as a child that no child should ever have to go through. I guess when I look at my childhood, it's black and white. There was no colour. And just before I came on, I was just trying to think how best to convey it. And that's the best way I can convey it to you. There was no happiness or colour. It was just a very black and white. Mum raised us well, as in manners, and fed us, but there was no kind of love and humanity there. It was just she was here to do a job, and she had us and she raised us, and that was it. So I was the only girl, as I said, in a large family of boys, and I've spoken to mum since, and she's admitted that she bullied me. She was a bully. She had her own issues, though. I don't blame her. There's no animosity. She had her own childhood, her own issues and demons to deal with, but she did bully me. So as soon as I could legally get away from home, I left. But I didn't amount to much. I ended up staying in a hostel, doing cleaning jobs here and there, but all the while still with this, this innate desire to be able to help people, and this need to help people. But
yeah, exactly.
16, 17-year-old me didn't know how I was going to do that. I had hopes and dreams, but I didn't know how. And then sadly, when I was 17, my dad died in Saudi. He was killed in a car crash.
Yikes.
And I'd left home by then, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And so I just didn't, nobody, it's like I needed somebody to come along and tell me how to be when you lose a parent.
Yeah.
And I was too young to deal with that level of grief. So I turned it into anger. And I kind of lived off that for quite a few years. And, you know, I went through a stage of making some real silly choices and getting into situations that I shouldn't do, but still with a good heart. Not that I did anything bad, but silly choices that got me into hot water sometimes. But still, I had a really good heart and really wanted to help people. And it kind of... So when you look back to what I've come from, to where I am today, a businesswoman with a functioning, successful business, to that 16-year-old girl that thought she knew everything, ended up living on the streets, you know, and being homeless and having to be taken in by a local charity because I refused to go home.
Yeah.
You know, looking back at from there, where I've come from, you know, I had a nervous breakdown at the age of 24 because I hadn't dealt with the passing of my dad.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I was saying, that's why I referenced earlier, you've got to be of sound mind to be able to work with spirit. And for a long time I wasn't. And then, you know, I kind of whizzed through life, got married and divorced a few times. Well, no, actually, I'm with my third husband now, and we've been together 11 years and are really happy. But I had two kind of unhappy marriages before that. And I think I was looking externally for happiness rather than realizing and understanding that happiness had to come from within.
Yeah.
I had so much going on inside me, so much from my childhood, the passing of my father, the toxic relationship with my mum, and I just kind of never dealt with that. And rather than dealing with it, I was just, you know, true happiness is within, it's inside. It's not an external factor. It's not somebody or a place or a thing or money. It's happiness. It lies within us. And I spent so long, and I think that's probably why I made so many bad decisions, just kind of desperate trying to find this happiness. And eventually I got myself, you know, into a positive situation, and things started to change, and I started to put the bare bones of a business together. But then I had my youngest son, who is quite severely autistic. I've got 4 children and they're all on the spectrum.
Oh, okay.
To different levels, and my young one, who is 9, is, so I started putting this business together, had my last child, and then realized pretty soon that he was on the spectrum too, but quite severely. So that took up some time.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with that, and I had to kind of do, you know, fight all the battles that I needed to fight for him, getting funding and getting recognised and getting diagnosis, and so that took up a few years. And then
isn't it strange though, you had to fight for someone to you know, help him, and you know, given, you know, the different levels of the spectrum. I mean, it's funny when you say that though, because I had a guest on here. He actually runs a podcast for parents that have kids with autism, you know, for like in the beginning stages, and he discusses all that stuff. And he was telling me about this woman that he had met in California, that his son Stone was learning how to be verbal again. He was using like a stencil type thing, and you know, and he was trying to communicate with people, but the schools wouldn't listen. And he told him, hey, look, this is what's working. Look at what's happening. He's actually communicating with you now, and he can actually fully complete sentences and communicate with you now. And this is what he's doing. And the school just brushed it off. They're like, oh no, forget it. No. I'm like, why? I don't understand why you all have to be like that. It's like, he's got a proven record. It's working. Look at what it's doing for him, versus what you're doing versus what he's doing. What he's went and did himself. David had him with the woman that was doing that. And he was using he showed it to me. It's like a little stencil type thing. And you know, he would spell out the words basically using the stencil at first. And, you know, it's amazing because he said he hadn't spoken a word in up to that point. And I'm just like, and then when he brought it to the school, like, hey, look, this could be great for other kids. They're like, no. I'm like, why not make it easier for people to just, you know, give these guys a fighting chance? Why do we? I don't understand why we deny these kind of things. You know, if it's a proven track record too, you know.
Things have changed a lot. My oldest is 28, and it took me till he was 14 to get him any help in a diagnosis. And I thought when I had my because my children are kind of span over 20 years. And I thought when I had my last child, things have got to be better now. things have got, my God, they're not much better. They're not much better. Yes, there is more autism awareness, but when it comes to accessing funding and help and people for your children, the battle is still the same.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy.
So I spent quite a few years doing that, and then during lockdown, very early stages of lockdown, I started to notice that I was having problems when I went to the toilet. I was passing some blood, only a small amount. And my husband said to me, he said, go and get it checked out. So I managed to get an appointment with the doctor. And she said, I'm going to put you on a 2-week turnaround. And I thought, a bit of overkill, really. I said, is that necessary? I said, and by the time I'd seen the doctor, it had stopped anyway. And I said, it's stopped now. Do I need? And she's like, yes, you need to go. So anyway, I waited the 2 weeks. I think they got me in very quickly, considering it was lockdown. They got me in within the 2 weeks, and the colonoscopy was done, and they took some biopsies, and they found a mass in the bowel that they sent away. They thought was a polyp, or an infected polyp. Anyway, I went about my business, and 2 weeks later the doctor's secretary rang and said, can you come in and see the doctor tomorrow, and it might be a good idea to bring your husband. I thought,
no.
Yeah, it's never good news, is
That's
it?
never good when they say that.
Yeah. So I went in, and she said, the mass that we took away, she said, we were really shocked, she said, but it's a carcinoma. She said, but the good news was, it was like a kind of good news and bad news. The good news is, the bad news was, yes, it's cancer. The good news is we got it out with a clear margin. So they didn't have to do any kind of bowel resection or anything. I didn't. So it was dealt with. They got it out there, and I've been under observation ever since. But then about 3 weeks later, the symptoms came back. So I rang the consultant. I said, look, the symptoms are back. She said, well, I don't think it's cancer, we got all that out. She said, but come back in and we'll do another colonoscopy. So same again with, she got me in within 2 days, and she did the colonoscopy, and she said, my God, she said, you've got Crohn's disease.
Oh, Jesus.
So within 2 weeks I found out I'd got bowel cancer and Crohn's disease. But the silver lining around that cloud was the fact that Crohn's disease actually saved my life, because the symptoms that I'd been experiencing that I went to the doctor for were from the Crohn's disease, but I was in like a mini flare, and it had cleared up very quickly. So when they found the mass, there was no other sign of Crohn's disease. It had been in a mini flare and it had cleared up. But then I'd gone back into a flare, and luckily it was when the consultant did the second colonoscopy, and that actually saved my life, because if it hadn't have been for the Crohn's disease, I wouldn't have had the symptoms, and they would never have found the cancer, and I probably wouldn't be sat here talking to you today.
Exactly. And see, you wouldn't be able to help people like you're helping.
No,
it all happens for a reason.
Yeah, that was the cat, and I thought, and I wanted to shout from the rooftops, I've had bowel cancer, but I'm okay. And I was talking to people, do you check your bowels regularly? Have you got any problem? People are embarrassed by this. We should talk about. I just felt like I'd been given this, this. I mean, at one point, my husband was like, "Oh God, Kirsty, shut up."
He's like, "Can you please stop?" He's like, "Stop talking about it. People don't talk about these things, And it's the same thing with mental health. Think about it. Like people here, like when people mention like suicide and things like that, it's like instantly they just do that clench up moment, because they're like, oh shit, things are getting real serious real quick, and it's like it's funny.
Yeah, mental health. If we normalize mental health, it would take away 80% of the mental health issue.
Y'all heard it right there, 80%.
Yeah, if we normalized mental health, then it would remove 80% of any mental health issues.
I agree.
Because it would just become normal. It would just become a part of life. Even in the 25th century, I've got so much stigma around mental health. I will talk to people about mental health all day, because I don't care. I have no shame. I have I struggle with people that won't go and get help, because there is help, and there is,
What is the reason they say they won't get help though?
Because they believe that they should pull themselves together, and that they shouldn't need the help. They're just being silly, and they need to pull themselves together. you can't just pull yourself together with mental
Right.
health.
Depending on what it is, yeah, exactly. It's just for some people. I mean, it works out great, but if you've got something really serious like BP, like borderline personality disorder or something like that, I mean, you're in for a war, because that one's a fun one.
Yeah, it's bizarre how many people think that they should be able to kind of pull themselves together and you know and of stupid pride. You know, they think that they're not really very strong. But where strength does lie is in seeking help.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no strength in running away from something.
Yeah, there's no pride in just ignoring the issue, because I dealt with mine for a long time. I'm almost 40 now, and I dealt with it so long, and then I started finding out certain things about myself, like my mom abandoned me when I was 10. So I have this thing now that I talked to a psychologist here in the States named Dr. Tim, and he's like, Pete, did you know that you have probably picked up the characteristic of wanting to make sure everybody feels included because you were abandoned? I was like, no. I was like, I'm like, are you reading my mind? Like, it was so weird, because he was just like, he normalized it for me, and he was giving like the technical terms to it. Then he went on to the flip side and goes, hey, did you know that that's something you probably picked up? And he's like, does that sound about right? And he's just sitting there listening to me talk. And he's like, yeah. And it was so weird, because he just read my thoughts about it. I was like, yeah, I do that a lot of times. I do like to make people feel included and all that other kind of stuff like that. And it's weird, because it's like, we don't want to deal with these problems that we have. And I should have dealt with a long time ago. I had real bad rage issues. I had real bad, outbursts of just things happening that I should have dealt with a long time ago, but it's fractured so many things. And it's like, I'm slowly trying to forgive my mom, but at the same time, since I've waited so long to deal with it, it's hard. Like, it's like me trying to grasp how it is that someone gave birth to you, just takes you and drops you off somewhere and goes, okay, well, I'm done with you. And it messes you up. And it's like, I could talk to her about it, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere in that conversation.
Yeah,
So
I used to sit and think about my mum. I used to think, why did you even have me? You obviously don't.
exactly.
You obviously don't like me very much. So why did
Yeah,
you?
exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's like why even have me if this is how you're going to be? Or you're mad about. I don't even remember what we even got in an argument about. I was like 10 years old, and we got in an argument on something totally stupid. Like, she was very possessive, and I don't know why that is that she was like that, but she was very very controlling. She was a very controlling person too. Like, she liked to control a lot of aspects of everything. And when I got older, and I just didn't talk. We didn't talk for like 10 years at one point. I had my first daughter when I was like 19. And I called to tell her that she was born. She had no idea at this point, because we didn't talk much between then. And I was still mad. And when I told her about it, she just started screaming. I could put the phone this far away, and you could hear her screaming on the other end of this phone. Oh my God, what did you do? This and that. I'm like, yeah, hey, how about the fact I'm still here? I didn't abandon this kid. I'm still trying to make it work on my own. I'm doing this. I'm taking responsibility. How about this? Hey, congratulations for taking responsibility. Be excited.
Mhm.
And then I had and she eventually got adopted by her mom, because I'm 19. I didn't know anything better. I was not the most pleasant person to be around. Still had rage issues. I had outbursts. And she made the best decision possible. And my daughter still knows I'm her dad, but she, even though she's adopted, the adopted dad even told her that, hey, yeah, your dad's there. So that's going to be an interesting journey there alone, because this year she turns 18. So I'm going to try and reconnect with her. And then,
Mhm.
I have three other daughters too, and they're with my ex. And my ex was very manipulative. She was very big on gaslighting people. She's very controlling and things like that. And she knew how to pick at you, like that, kind of like just pick at certain things and just get you going. And look, he's such an evil person because he's so angry, this and that, and it was just like, I was so stressed out. I was working overnights, which is like, I'll be up all night working, and then I come home, barely sleep anything, make sure the kids got on the bus and everything like that. And she was never home. She disappeared, take off, and I stayed, God knows why I even stayed, because I don't even know why at this point. It was just like, I felt trapped because of the kids, and that whole saying, stay together for the kids, never works out for anybody. And it's like, um, things like that. And it's just, it was just rough, because it was like, you think these people love you, and then it's like all of a sudden it becomes an issue. And
let me share something with you, Pete.
I'm plugging my computer in.
When I was
I'm listening though.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay. When I was studying past life regression, I had a light bulb moment that was really cathartic for me. What I discovered when I was studying is, as I said to you previously, the human soul reincarnates every 15 to 25 years, and it chooses who, with, where, when. So I then realised that I had chosen my parents, who I didn't like very much in reality. I'd chosen my parents because my soul needed to learn the lessons that they were going to teach me. And on a soul level, my parents allowed me to be born through them, knowing that I would grow up to hate them or not like them. And on a soul level, that's a really selfless thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a really selfless thing to do. And I then realised that, yeah, I've held all this anger towards my mum for all these years, but I chose her to help me learn the lessons that my soul needs to learn. How can I then be angry at her?
Yeah.
And it's the same for you, Pete. If you can, if you can look at it from a soul point of view, that you chose your mum and your dad for whatever lessons that your soul is needing to learn in this lifetime. So you chose those parents. And people often say to me, why the hell would I choose them parents? But we did. We chose our parents, no matter how messed up that sounds or how messed up it feels.
Yeah.
We actually did choose them for them to be able to teach us and help us achieve what we wanted to achieve in this lifetime. And on a soul level, when you look at it like that, you're like, so how then can I be angry with those people? They created situations that made me feel in a certain way, so my soul could experience that. How can I be angry with them? And for me, that was where the tide turned, because I was so angry with my parents. And as we know, anger serves no purpose. It kind of eats away at us, and it makes us feel horrible. It can fuel us for a long time, but in the end, it just destroys us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an energy anger. We can feed off it, we can power off it, we can do lots of things, but ultimately it's like a cancer. It's just in there kind of eating away at you.
Yeah, exactly what it feels like.
Yeah. And for me, that moment I was able to kind of let go of kind of 80% of the pain and the anger that I felt towards mum.
Yeah.
Now, on a conscious level, sometimes we have a much better relationship now than what we had. We're 80% better, but sometimes she still triggers me, and even me, who teaches people every day to be nice to other people and teach people about the law of attraction and like attracts like, and I talk about this stuff every day. Even me sometimes is still triggered. She still has this wonderful ability to to pinpoint the only trigger that I've got.
That's my ex, basically. Yeah, she used to trigger me all the time, and I'm married now. My wife now is the one that's been teaching me, like, hey, don't let her get to you. She always says it too. Don't let her get to you. And like, I've learned so much from her too. Like. And I didn't even look at it from that aspect, and it's like, yeah, if it wasn't for her, I don't even think this podcast would even exist, honestly, because the reason this even started was because I started looking into my own mental health. And then I noticed that, like, when I start really talking about it, it's like, no one's really talking about these subjects. Like, these are things I deal with on a daily basis. It's like, you see these nice little clickbait videos, like, oh, it's great. Hey, it's Men's Mental Health Month. Okay. So then watch it. After that month, see how many people stay on the same topic. No, they're gone then. It disappears. Like, okay, well, next year it'll be the next thing. It's like Christmas, like it's a holiday for them. Like, oh, look, men's mental health. We're going to talk about Suicide Awareness Month of September. Oh, we're going to talk about it all month. It's like, yeah, that's great and all, but what happens to the conversation afterwards? Like, these people deal with these things on a daily basis. And I deal with my own, like, anxiety and depression, things like they don't go away. Like, it's not, okay, well, the month's over, it's time to go. Like, it's not like Christmas. Like, hey, time to put the decorations away, come back to it again. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And I think that's the problem I have with social media, is that people just like, they want to use them like these little clickbait videos. Oh, I support these things. Okay, cool. So where are you at after that point? Nowhere. It's like a ghost town. Like half of you all nowhere to be found at all. And it's great that you all want to do these clickbait videos, but this conversation is real. These people, we deal with these things every day. Like, people that deal with like some of these disorders is just insane. Like, like some of them, I just like, I don't think people realize, like some of the things I've just discovered as I've been doing a little research as I go. It's just like I said, BPD was the most interesting one of all, though, because it's like, depending on who has it, it manifests different in other people. So, other people deal with different things. And, and I had a woman on here named Lucy that is a good friend of mine now. She's actually part of a band, and she's a tattoo artist. And she's like, I deal with BPD, which was interesting because I didn't know any of these things. Like a lot of the stuff I find out, we're talking live, and she just started opening up about it. Hey, and she almost told us what caused it. So, but it was like awesome that she was willing to share that with us. And I was very interested because she was like, what happens every day? I question who I am. And it's like, I tell people, I'm like, dude, you want to see some crazy stuff? Go look at what BPD is. Just read it. Don't even talk to somebody who has it. Just read it. Just the things that the kaleidoscope and the wheel of just emotions these people deal with on a daily basis. And there was a young lady that worked with me. And she said she had it, and she was like, yeah, my emotions cycle and things like that. And for her, that's what happened to her. And I was just like, this is insane. And I got more fascinated because she told me about it. She's just like, just all of a sudden came and say, hey, Pete, and then just mentions it. I'm like, this is weird, because she had no idea I was doing a mental health podcast. She knows I did another podcast prior to this one, and I was messing around with some friends and things like that we were doing. And then it got a little too out of hand. So I was like, all right, I need to regroup and redo this thing, rebrand, and do something else that, and then I landed on this topic, and it's exploded. But it was interesting because people come up to me and tell me these things all the time. And like, it was crazy because she had mentioned that. And then I started looking into it, and I was just like, I was really fascinated because I was like, damn, this is really interesting. What else is out there? And then I just started pulling up all these different things, and it just led me down that rabbit hole, as they say, of just different things to look at. And I'm just like, damn, I'm like, some of these things that people deal with just to get through a day is just insane.
Yeah, nothing happens in your life by chance or coincidence.
Yeah,
every occurrence in our life is to bring us onto the next event.
Yeah,
whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. We are, yes, life is mapped out for us by us, but we are given certain choices.
Yeah,
along the way. But there is free will. We can kind of derail our own destiny and go against the grain and just go against everything. But even that is a learning experience. It's a learning. Yeah. But nothing happens by chance. Like, you were always meant to do this, and your own experience is what has fueled you to do this. So look at it. If you can, put what you've been through, spin it on its head, and think, I was always meant to go through this to help all these other people and to be a voice for all these other people.
Yeah.
You look at the amount of people that you're reaching and the good that you're doing. What we've been through kind of pales into insignificance, and I am in no means taking any pain away from anybody, suggesting that their pain pales into insignificance.
Yeah.
But it kind of does when the payoff for helping so many people, and you think, that's why I had to go through this. That is why. Sorry, I'm sat in my car and the light keeps going off.
I was just saying that. I'm trying to keep it straight. I'm trying not to laugh because it's funny to watch you keep opening the door.
It was light when we started. I never even thought about the light. I've had to sit in the car, so it's the quietest place. Trust me.
Right.
But yeah, when you weigh it up against what you've been through, you think, yes, this is why, as hard and as crap as it was, that's why I had to go through, because this is the bigger picture, helping and being a voice for all these other people.
Yeah, it feels good though. I deal with imposter syndrome a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, it's hard to believe that my success is so good as it is, just by having a conversation with people about a subject that a lot of people say is talked about a lot, but I don't really think it is, honestly. I think it's better though. I do say that I think it's gotten better. you know, and things like that. And there's people I've met so far down this road, like a woman named Stephanie Aycock. She's got a film called Bloom she had written that she's trying to get funded now, but it's supposed to change the way we look at mental health itself. You know, like she's taking a funnier approach to it. That way it's easier to digest for some of those people, you know? So it's like, instead of just being straight fact, it's like, okay, here's a story about this character. It's similar to some of her life experiences, you know, a couple jokes in there, here and there. But you make it easier for people to digest the whole topic because, you know, you deal with different generational gaps of things, and people have different mindsets, and you know, and you'll, you know, as I go through this, you know, you learn meeting new people and different things, and it's so great because I get to meet new people every day. Every time I do a recording, it's always a new person I'm talking to that's doing something different, and you know, there's so much different than just traditional therapy nowadays. That people need to understand. It's like therapy works for some people. It's not all just, hey, pill, because it's not really all it is. It's just like you and I having a conversation right now. You telling me, you know, explaining things to me, and I'm explaining what I'm thinking, you know, and it's really what it is. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to share my feelings. I'm like, why don't you just try it? Just talk to somebody. You don't even have to share your feelings. I know that's the one thing I heard somebody say is like, well, I don't want to share my feelings. I'm like, okay, don't share your feelings. Just go have a conversation with them. I guarantee that person can read exactly what's going on more than you think. Like Dr. Tim proved that. He's like, I've been doing this 30 plus years. I can read a situation right away. It's like, you don't have to say much. They can pick apart what you're saying. And, you know, and some people can get it within the first session. They can have an idea of exactly what you may be dealing with, and help you better understand these emotions of things you're dealing with. And it's, you know, it's great. And like I said, this podcast, I'm like, I'm out to almost October now. And it's crazy when I tell people are like, you're out to October. I'm like, yeah, I'm almost out to October now. Like last year around November, I was out to July, and I just kind of like, I didn't push as hard to go any further because I was like, you know, let me get to the end of this year. Let's get to the end of this year, because you know I was struggling to get to the end of the year with the holidays and everything like that, and things like that. Just dealing with other things.
How often are you doing the podcast, Pete?
I do it every week on Mondays at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. But today I'm actually doing a special at 6 o'clock. I'm doing another a special guest. So
that's amazing that you've fully booked up, you know, till October.
Yeah, October at 10 and 3 p.m. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's insane. Like just telling people that, they're just looking at me the same thing. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, it was 10 a.m. and then I opened the 3 p.m. slot open, and then it just went shut off. And then I add the digital calendar, and it's like, all right, here we go. We're going to hop all the way to April. I'm like, okay. Like I got like 17 notifications, 17 new bookings. I'm like, okay. All right.
That's amazing.
It's just gaining momentum as they go. And I'm also part of a radio station. So right now we're live on the Oracle Talk Radio Network as well. And the gentleman named Thomas, my contact, and he's actually a really nice guy. He reached out to me before the show even started, before I even recorded anything. He was like, hey, Pete, got a new network I'm starting. What do you think? I said, hey, Tom, I have 0 recorded at this point, just so you know. And he's like, okay, that doesn't matter. That's fine. What do you think? I'm like, why not? Let's go for it. And here I am. I'm not even a year out. I'm already booked to the anniversary date, which would be the September 15th, though. And it's like, it's just all just going so fast. And, you know, I have a Patreon and I have all these other things. And it's like, it's just so much so fast. But it's like, all I'm doing is having a conversation with people. Like, I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just one curious guy about how things are, you know, and then I meet different people that teach you things, and I take things apart from every conversation. So like, you know, the whole, you know, all the you know, all the stuff you're teaching me now, I'm taking some of it with me, because I always mentioned to other people, like, hey, I was talking to, you know, Kirsty, and she was telling me these things. And, you know, like Stephanie's movie, I tell everybody about that. And she loves it when I tell everybody about it, because I'm like, why not? Let's start a conversation about these things.
Do you know, we going back to imposter syndrome, when I first started my psychic development, I need to open and shut the door again. When I first started my psychic development, I was practicing on people. And I used to think to myself, because I've got something called aphantasia. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
It's the inability to see an image in the mind's eye. So if I close my eyes, all I see is darkness. If somebody said to me, visualize an apple, I couldn't see it. I'd sit there for 12 hours and I still couldn't see it. It's called aphantasia. And I've got this, so that my other senses are very strong. So I see, smell, feel, and sense, and hear spirit.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I started doing readings, and I was doing them kind of semi-professionally, and then I started charging, and I used to think, I'm just making this shit up. It's just, it's just coming to my head. I'm just making it up. It's not real. But it was so accurate that there's no way I could have been making it up.
Exactly.
But my imposter syndrome was so bad that I thought, I'm just a fake. I'm just telling people fake information for money. And I almost convinced myself that I was a scam artist because I just felt so, I just couldn't believe that I was getting this, such correct information about people. Obviously over the years that wore off, but with other things now, I wanted to get into public speaking and talk about my life and how I've come from nothing to be a businesswoman.
Yeah.
From literally being on the streets to being a businesswoman. But I think I would. It was something that it's on my bucket list. It's something that I want to do. But I think imposter syndrome. I'm going to have a real grapple with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I deal with it all the time. So, all right, Kirsty, let's go ahead and start wrapping up because it is getting dark over there for you.
It is, yeah. It's only tea time, but it is getting quite dark.
All right, well, go ahead and plug your socials. Right? I know you're on Instagram. I know you're on Facebook. I know you have the website. You go ahead and plug all those for everybody so that everybody can find out more about you and see what else they can do with you.
Yeah, my website is khbespoketherapy.com. You can see a list on there of all the things that all the services that I offer, or you can just drop me a message. My email is kh@khbespoketherapy.com. You'll find me on Facebook, Kirsty Heath. I'm on Instagram, KH Bespoke Therapy, and TikTok as well, Kirsty Heath Bespoke Therapy. So yeah,
she's even on the TikTok, guys.
Yeah, even if you you're not interested in a service, you just have a question, I'm always here for it. Always here for it. If I can pass on knowledge to somebody else, then I'm all for it.
Of course, yeah, obviously, yeah, that's great. And I tell people that if their story touches somebody, one person, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete versus Anxiety. Kirsty, thank you so much for joining us. It was great. I'm so glad you came. It was great talking to you. I learned a lot of new things. I'll definitely be in touch because I follow all my guests. So when I post videos and things like that, I can shoot them and tag in them so you can share them with all the people to show that you were on the show. You guys already know where to find me. Pete versus Anxiety, pretty much in everything. X, TikTok, Facebook. God, everywhere. Visa. I'm like Visa, everywhere you want me to be. And as I always say, guys, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save somebody's life, or hell, you can even make their day. I'm Pete versus Anxiety saying, don't ask how your day is, guys. Ask how your mental health is today.